What is it about addiction in that part of the country that is so bad that we don't even realize how bad it is?
I will say that those few bad actors really do some serious damage to the majority, and the majority of those that are providing this treatment and recovery services are wonderful, well-meaning people.
I'm really curious about like all these like AI farms that are buying up land. Is that going to hurt or help Appalachia?
If an individual is able to receive help because they have the resources, they're only able to receive help for a short amount of time.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Town and Country Ford, Kentucky, getting you there no matter where the road may lead. I grew up in a Ford family. My dad worked for the Louisville Ford assembly plant, and it was just ingrained in our upbringing. It was more than a brand, it was a way of life. And that's the thing about Ford, is that they're there for you here in Kentucky, across America. They're gonna get you there no matter where your road will lead. Right now, their massive summer clearance sale is going on. To get started, just head on over to fordlouisville.net and pick out your next ride today. Tyler Childers and Chris Stapleton headlined it. Thousands attend, and it's fighting the opioid crisis head on. This year, though, Healing Appalachia is taking a deliberate pause, one of the biggest music festivals going right now. And we're talking to the man that is behind it, that's producing a big part of this, Logan Terry, and he's here to talk to us and tell us about that big decision. But first of all, welcome to the Best Bet podcast.
Of course. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You know, it's called the Best Bet. And I always like to ask people, obviously, about what they do with their professional life. But I think the crux of it all is the bets that we make in life. And I feel like you've made some really big bets that have redirected the change in your life. Like, how did you get involved in Healing Appalachia and the nonprofit that you support?
Yeah, well, I'd say it's a pretty big answer to that question, and I made some pretty big bets, and I feel like I've gotten extremely lucky. I think is the way that it happened. I mean, I started out as really, and still am, a fan first, right? So I'm a person in long-term recovery. I've been sober since January 3rd of 2018. Mm-hmm. Around 2019 is whenever the Healing Appalachia Festival started to really kind of gain some traction. And at the time I was in California, at the treatment center that I was in, and I saw an Instagram post from Tyler Childers that he had posted on his account about the festival. And at the time, I didn't even know what a nonprofit was. I didn't know that people could have a music festival and do what they were doing, and kind of started going down this big rabbit hole. And years later, it inspired me to start my own separate nonprofit, which was substantially smaller, with a similar mission to just raise funds to give out to recovery programs. And through that, I met a woman named Tracy, who just so happened to be on the board of Healing Appalachia, and that kind of began my relationship with the organization.
Isn't it so cool how they just like openly embrace? They're like, "Come on in, Logan."
Yeah, I will say, I mean, above everything, for those that do know the impact of the organization, that's all due to the wonderful people and the founders and the board of that organization. So.
What was it about that particular program that you just thought, I've got to be a part of this? This really speaks to me, like, because there are a number of programs out there, but this one spoke to you and you thought, okay, if I'm a part of this, we can make an even bigger difference.
Yeah. So I think primarily the reason being, and one of the things that attracted me to the organization in the very beginning was the music, right? So, there's this very popular TED Talk where this individual talks about addiction and saying that the opposite of addiction is connection. And what I have found in my own experience is that one of the best tangible forms of connection is music. And that was my experience. I listened, I was at a data entry job, plugging away, trying to learn how to use a computer, and I heard a song by Tyler Childers, and I immediately the hair on my arms, stood up, and that is like a tangible form of connection. I felt connected to the music, which then led me to learn about Healing Appalachia and the festival that he was headlining, and then I was shocked to find out that an artist like that, stood behind such a mission, and the impact that was having was very inspiring to me.
Well, music is so healing.
It is. It is.
I mean, it can remind us of our worst days and our best days. growing up, like all wrapped into one.
Yes, it definitely does.
Yeah. Have you had a chance then, since then, to have this conversation with Tyler Childers?
I wish that I could. In some ways, I have not. I think
What would you say to him?
I would just say thank you, and I think that I would try in the short amount of time that I would have to kind of explain the depth of impact that he's had, not only, on me, but many others that are in recovery, and kind of doing that. It really, Healing Appalachia unintentionally kind of created this culture for people in recovery, right? Yeah. And for not just Tyler, but all the other artists that have given their time to go on that stage. And then, before they go on stage, there's people in recovery on that stage. And it's kind of, they're sharing that stage with people in recovery. And, whether they know it or not, they've made a huge difference.
For people that haven't been to it, what is it like? Kind of describe, what does a set look like? What does the day look like? What are you immersed in? What do you feel? What are you moved by?
So the past several years have been a little bit different. The first several years of the festival, it was all hosted at the West Virginia State Fairgrounds in Lewisburg, West Virginia. And then this past year, we had it in Ashland, Kentucky. But whether it was in West Virginia or Kentucky, it was the same. I mean, you walk into the festival grounds like you do any other festival grounds, but instead of this, organized, beautiful chaos that you might see, there is recovery providers everywhere. There's people, some people that are in recovery, some people that are just recovery allies, and some people that are just there to support the music and listen to the music. But when you walk in, it's like you immediately feel this sense of community, right, and togetherness, and there's just this, oneness is the only way I can really describe it. I would drive from Nashville, Tennessee, all the way to Lewisburg, West Virginia once a year. And it was like the one thing that I would, save my money and make sure that I went to every year, because it's just, there's something I'm trying to describe, an indescribable experience, but it's just beauty,
What is it about having it in partnership with a couple of states, do you think, that's made it so successful? Because it's not just West Virginia that makes it successful. It's parts of Ohio and Kentucky too.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's all of this happens. I mean, people, we could sit here and talk for hours about all of the different people and organizations that it takes to kind of make this thing happen.
Yeah.
Up until last year, I mean, everything was 90% volunteer outside of some of the operational things that had to be put in place. So I mean,
that's a huge undertaking for that mostly to be volunteer.
Yeah, it is. It's massive. I think last year we had over 900 volunteers that were all people in recovery as well.
Wow.
But then there's the community gives back in a multitude of different ways. I would say West Virginia has been wonderful to us, and we are so grateful for the state fairgrounds, and but also the welcome that we got from Kentucky was like completely. I don't want to say like unexpected, but we just didn't expect to have as much support that we did. I mean, the Department of Tourism was, helping in any way that they could. The Boyd County Tourism was amazing over there. Shout out to Andrew. But then also all the local providers as well, and restaurants and businesses. So,
what is it about addiction in that part of the country that is so bad that we don't even realize how bad it is?
Yeah, I mean that too is.
Do you think that there's a disparity? Do you think it hits that region harder than the rest of the United States?
It definitely it 100% does. That's been proven for quite some time. The reasons why, I mean, there's a lot of different. I think there's a lot of reasons why. I think unfortunately one of the primary reasons is that some of the manufacturers of the opioids, right? They specifically targeted Appalachia because of a multitude of reasons, right? And I think that the issue progressed because of there was and still is a lack of necessary resources for a recovery ecosystem to exist. And so, while there has been a lot of amazing feats had. I mean, there was a dramatic reduction in overdose deaths over the past couple years, which is something that should be celebrated. What I will say is that it's not the time to take our foot off the gas. we're really just now kind of getting back to baseline numbers from overdose deaths pre-COVID, right? So where overdose deaths now are nationally is still around 80,000 a year, which is exactly where we were around 2020. And every single behavioral health marker and increased during COVID. All negative. There's a lot of different negative health consequences that were increased during COVID. Pretty much all behavioral health markers increased dramatically over COVID, including substance use and opioid use disorder. And what we're seeing now is that it's really kind of we're just back to where we were at pre-COVID. So, which is an indicator that maybe things have changed, but maybe we're in the exact same spot we were in 2020. We really don't know. And that, to me, right, is terrifying and scary. So, especially as we see a lot of, changes in, programming and things like that, and programming and availability for people to receive treatment.
What do people not understand about addiction?
I wish I could say that the issue of stigma was not still the number one problem. Because those of us that work in this field are really kind of tired of hearing about it and talking about it. But I would say that not just in the Appalachian region, but everywhere, stigma is still the number one problem. And
but a festival like Healing Appalachia removes that. Like, I feel like that helps you get rid of that stigma, doesn't it?
It does. I do think that that's one of the biggest benefits that the festival has had, is that it brings people there to hear the amazing artists play.
Right.
But then in return, what happens is that they learn about recovery. Yeah. They learn that recovery is possible. And then they learn about the resources that are available.
Right. Are there enough resources available?
Yes and no. Right. So kind of going back to what the problem is, I think it's stigma. And I think the other issue, which is the larger issue, is that for what help that there is available, not saying that it's not the right type, but we treat a chronic, lifelong condition with acute care, right? So if an individual is able to receive help because they have the resources, they're only able to receive help for a short amount of time, right? So this is like I said, a chronic, lifelong condition. And when you hear about treatment, it's associated with 28 days or 30 days of treatment,
and then they send you on your way and say good luck,
and go back to the regular environment,
to the toxic environment that you came from.
Exactly.
I interviewed Dale Romans, who's a thoroughbred trainer. He ran for U.S. Senate a couple months back, and he's battling it. He's always battled addiction in his life, and he said, what's broken about addiction, Claudia, is that the addiction recovery system is that they want you to come back because they keep getting more money out of you. And he said, that's what makes me so mad.
Yep.
Do you think that's true? Do you think that it's to get people back in, like a revolving door, that these companies are, here for recovery, but we're a business and we're making money off of this?
Some of them. I mean, yeah. I don't want to discredit the fact that there are a lot of bad actors in the addiction treatment and recovery space. There's bad actors in every healthcare space, right? I will say that those few bad actors really do some serious damage to the majority, and the majority of those that are providing this treatment and recovery services are wonderful, well-meaning people. The issue is really a larger systematic issue, is that there's not reimbursable services or enough reimbursable services for services longer than those 28 to 30 days. And so, if you're a treatment provider and you're trying to help people find a life of recovery, the only way that you can even make money is by providing those services for those stabilization services, really, for the first 30 days. They can't help longer than that because they can't get reimbursed. There's no reimbursements. There's not been enough. There's probably never going to be enough grant funding.
Right.
The systems have to change from the insurance level, right, for reimbursable services for longer periods of time. Until then, not a whole lot's going to change.
And so you're like on the backside of Healing Appalachia. You are Hope in the Hills, nonprofit that helps with recovery in those areas, you're then responsible. So Healing Appalachia happens, and then your organization is responsible for, okay, where is this money going to go? You have to be the one to look out with your board and your group to say, who are the reputable ones that we know are doing good things?
Yes.
And that's a ton of responsibility.
It is. I wish I could say that I had the cool job of putting and producing the festival. I have zero experience in the music industry and know absolutely nothing about producing a festival. That's the wonderful mind of Charlie Hatcher and Ian Thornton. But yeah, I do get the cool job to me, right, which is figuring out how as an organization we can combat the opioid crisis and addiction crisis with the funds that were raised from the festival. And so
how do you decide at the end of the day where that goes?
It's a process.
There's a lot of need.
There is a massive amount of need. I think we do have an open year-round application process on our website where recovery organizations can apply for funding. But how the grant committee approves what to fund and how to allocate those dollars is, my job, which is a year-round job, which is really kind of staying involved in the recovery community and finding out what each state in Appalachia is doing to, combat the opioid crisis, see what's working, what's not working, and then finding out where the gaps are, right? And that's very different for each state. And so that's how I stay busy.
You mentioned earlier how the opioid crisis began, really with these manufacturers targeting, you believe, people in Appalachia, in East Kentucky, in parts of West Virginia, Ohio, where it seems to be more prevalent than other parts of the country. How was that allowed to happen? And is that the fault of elected officials that turned a blind eye that, we're just going to look the other way? Like, how is that allowed to happen that you're essentially poisoning your own people?
Yeah, how it happened, I think, again, it would be great if there was one institution, person, or thing to blame on how it got that bad. I think it's definitely a mixture of all of the things that you had stated. I mean, some of it is on individuals that were in power during those times, and some of it was just a bad mix of the bad actors with the pill manufacturers, targeting an area that just literally didn't have the recovery structure, or anything to kind of support what was coming,
You work with all kinds of recovery programs in partnership. Is there something unique and different that's being done in those that you think this is the next? This is something that is maybe out of the box and different that we haven't heard a whole lot about, but I think trying something different could certainly help us get a leg up on this problem. Love that question. I think one of the issues is that there really hasn't been enough funding for innovative projects. I think from my experience, what I have seen kind of have the most effect on reducing overdose deaths is immediate, low barrier access to care, regardless of resources. And so there's programs and there's, people refer to them in different ways, but maybe respite housing, I would say, which is, it is high structured recovery homes or healthcare environments where individuals can get access, they get transported there as soon as they reach out for help, and then they're able to receive that care. And then from there, they are able to get navigated to the next level of care or treatment. So I'd say that's probably one of the biggest things. Eastern Kentucky actually did one of the best jobs in reducing overdose fatalities per capita than any other state. And it's for one reason alone, and that is that they increased bed availability by over 50% in the state. And, in my personal opinion, that has not been researched near enough to show effectiveness, because there is a large chance that we're heading right back, to a really bad problem. And we need to be able to show why the Eastern Kentucky specifically did such a good job in reducing, the overdose deaths. And it was simply because they increased bed availability to those who need it. All right, we're going to pause for a quick break. More with Logan Terry on the other side. Summer in the city hits entirely different when you know exactly where to look. I love traveling, but I have to be honest. Recently, my favorite weekends have been when I've just packed a bag, stayed right here, and indulged in the ultimate staycation. And for me, that always means Hotel Genevieve. If you want an escape that feels incredibly curated but completely effortless, they are running a special right now called the Lucky Kentuckian. It is essentially an exclusive discount just for tri-state neighbors. If you have a Kentucky, Indiana, or Tennessee ID, you can unlock this special rate, but you have to book directly on their website using the code LOCALS. It is subject to availability and blackout dates, so do not sit on this. Just head on over to hotelgenevieve.com, plug in the code LOCALS, and get started enjoying your proper summer getaway today. And we're back with Logan Terry. So before we get into the rest of the podcast, it's time for our sponsored question from Hotel Genevieve, which is a place here in Louisville, Kentucky, a boutique hotel that I think, in my opinion, completely nails the art of hospitality and a curated experience. All right, so Logan, I know you travel quite a bit for your work. You're all over this region. And so you're probably staying in plenty of hotels, right?
I certainly am.
This is a big one for me, is from your perspective, what is the one thing a hotel absolutely has to get right to make a guest feel less like a standard tourist and more like a true local insider?
So for me, the hotels that really stand out and do a good job at that are I think the most important thing is the people that work there.
Yeah.
What makes it kind of, I will spend weeks and long periods of time where I'm having to stay in a hotel and I miss my home, I miss my dogs, and I miss the comfortability of just being able to go somewhere and just feel okay. But the few places that I go to where that doesn't feel so much like that is because of the staff and the people there. They remember my name. They ask how I'm doing. I'll show up 2 or 3 weeks, if not a month or so later, and then they ask me about my dogs or how's work going. And I think for me that makes a gigantic difference in it kind of feeling like a second home.
That is so true. I always too. I like it when they suggest things to do locally, or the items in the hotel are local items that support local people.
Which I nerd out over all the time. And then finding the food. I mean, that's if you want to find where the real food is, not like the Chili's or the Applebee's. If you want to find
nothing against the corporate chain, but it's like I want to go where the locals eat.
Yep.
And it's always hands down the best.
It is always.
So you're in that West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky area all the time. I've been there quite a bit this year. I think every time I go back or I speak to entrepreneurs on this podcast, I am very blown away by the grit and the resilience of a younger generation that defies stigma, stereotypes, everything about Appalachia, that are so driven to settle where they're from and build a business. Do you see that too?
Yeah, I see that almost on a daily basis in my work. I mean, a lot of the businesses and organizations that we try to serve are, people that started their own recovery organization or business or whatever it may be, or nonprofit to try to combat it. And I've done this type of work all across the country, and I would say that Eastern Kentucky and Appalachia in general, I haven't seen the heart that I see in Appalachia that I do almost anywhere else. Not saying that other places and other individuals in other parts of the country don't have amazing heart and grit to do it. But what I see it, I mean, it's like per capita, the heart and the desire and I love the word grit, is substantially stronger in Appalachia. And I think the other part and reason why it's like so evident is because of the sense of community that you don't see in other places. And so it's not just the individuals that are starting these businesses or organizations doing whatever work that they're doing. It's the community behind them that then supports them, I think, it's also kind of makes a difference.
So many of those small towns have been completely revitalized with shops that are founded and run by locals, which I love. And there's a sense of community and pride that look at our town.
Yes.
That I wish I could bottle that up and take that to other cities that are struggling. It's like, look at there's so much love and belief over here, and it's working.
Agreed.
And I think that goes a long way to rebuilding a community.
It does. I think one of my favorite examples of that is our friends at New Frontier, right? I mean, like that's the coolest story of two entrepreneurs really kind of, using their drive to have an amazing local business that is also trying to help the community.
And
so
I'll talk to them occasionally, and they're always like a year ahead on planning.
Yep.
And then I'm like, well, they're like, Claudia, what are you planning in the next month? I'm like, I'm just trying to get a guest next week. I'm not even like that far ahead. Like their minds are just, like I said, it's just a different entrepreneurial spirit. And the people that they've introduced me to, they hustle on a different level. They do. They out hustle everybody.
They do.
And it's like, well, no wonder it's a success. And you want all the best for them, you really, really do. And I get mad, and I wonder if you do too. I really get angry when I see mainstream media paint Appalachia like they did in the 90s. Do you see that?
Yep, I see it all the time.
And it's like, no, wait a minute. Have you been there? It's almost like somebody pulled up an old story from like 2000 or 1995, and let's do a story on this. And it's like that's not the and you're not helping. It's misinformed, and you're not helping.
It drives me crazy, but I think, and
well, I feel like it's demeaning to the people. It's saying
it is.
I feel like I take it as a personal jab against that community, that you're disrespecting them that much. That just get there and learn about it, please.
True, but I think one of the ways to combat that, which I see a lot of people trying to do. I mean, art is by far one of the most powerful and underutilized tools, right? And so these films that come out, that kind of give Appalachia a bad view or a bad name or demean it in some way. The best way, I think, to combat that is for, the opposite, right? Yeah. So where you have art kind of showing the true beauty of Appalachia and the people and what's kind of really happening in there, The almost immediately when I started the job, right, at Hope in the Hills is looking at and how Healing Appalachia can help heal the community. But really what it is, it's Appalachians healing Appalachia, right? Yeah. I mean, and that's what's happening it's not just in the addiction recovery space, it's happening in every single facet that there could be, and I think that's the story that needs to be told. Absolutely.
It's been the headlines a lot too. And I'm really curious about all these AI farms that are buying up land. Is that going to hurt or help Appalachia?
So I have no idea, to be honest with you.
I'm confused about it. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
I'm definitely not educated enough to say on that topic one way or the other.
The data centers. They're data centers.
I do know that going into an area and exploiting its land or using its land in Appalachia is probably the last thing that any company should do, and should probably read a book. Not saying that it's not necessary. I mean, I don't know one way or the other, but anything that could be viewed as taking advantage of the land or that the region should definitely be looked at strategically.
Yeah, I don't know enough about it either but it just seems like that seems to be the next. First it was coal.
It does.
And it was addiction, opioids, and now it just seems like they're moving in everywhere, just gobbling up property.
Yes, yeah. And
they're not hiring people. This isn't like 300 jobs available and you're going to get, no, you're not. It's computerized.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know that it is one of the biggest topics of conversation among some of the independent funding organizations. Yeah. And so there's tons of organizations and individuals, looking at that and seeing what they can do to combat it for one reason or another.
Because typically when, say, a big company were to come into a community like a Pineville or Ashland, that community that business wants to do good, and I want to be a part of your community.
Yep.
So how can I help you give money to this or support in this? And has that been said? That when, you know what I mean? I'm not,
it's
I'm
possible,
not hearing
but
that.
I mean, I don't know.
You got to be a good community partner.
On any topic like that, I like to try to do as much as I possibly can to find unbiased information from both sides. Yeah. Right. To kind of figure it out. And I haven't. I have no idea.
No idea.
All I know is that AI, for better or for worse, is going to be here to stay.
Yeah.
And for the country to remain competitive in the industry, it's going to have to do everything that it can to stay competitive. Now, whether they're doing that in the raw, absolute worst way possible, I'm not sure. You know,
So what's up next for you? So we don't have Healing Appalachia this fall.
Yep.
But your work continues.
100%.
And so how does that continue, and what things you're looking forward to that you think could get you the attention and get groups the money that they need to do the good work that they're doing?
So with the Healing Appalachia Music Festival being our largest source of income, right, that we use to be able to give back to the community, the first thing that we're doing is we're spending a lot of time right now focusing on Healing Appalachia 2027. And so I think we're doing a lot to try to make sure that this next year's festival is as amazing and as set up as great as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. And then throughout the year, we're working on some of our other initiatives. So we have a workforce development program called Restage Appalachia, where we train people to work and give them certifications to be stagehands and to work in the live event industry.
That's great.
We have a recovery housing scholarship fund that's all funded through our monthly donors, where we're getting people access to long-term care and long-term recovery housing each month. And then we're launching a music education program for youth in high school and middle schools to learn how to play instruments and hopefully to build some type of connection to prevent them from going to substance use in the future.
Building skills and getting jobs seem to be the backbone of programs that really work, because there's there's a lot in the thoroughbred industry where I think there's one out of Lexington that does a really
stable recovery.
They're cool.
One of the coolest programs I've ever seen. The programs that integrate the workforce development piece are some that are going to have the best outcomes, like stable recovery and many others that do that, because the meaningful employment is a vital part of the recovery ecosystem necessary for people to get long-term recovery.
And if you have this massive festival at your back door, why not learn to get jobs within that industry?
Yeah, of
and
course.
What a sense of pride for your family and for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, most workforce training programs that are available to people in recovery are to be honest, they're boring or they're stale.
Right.
And so if an individual in early recovery finds out that they can work in the music industry or live event industry in some way, they jump at it. And we've seen a lot of success with that, and it's been amazing to watch.
So you mentioned that you're busy planning with the team Healing Appalachia 2027. So I'm going to ask you this, because the podcast is the best bet.
Of course.
And so we cannot leave without placing a friendly wager on this,
it.
right? So if you're looking at the future of Healing Appalachia, is the best bet that we get a formal 2027 comeback festival lineup announcement before the end of the year?
That's a good bet. I will say
yes.
I don't know the answer to that. Okay. They intentionally keep me in the dark about a lot of things because they are terrified that I will share information.
You go on a podcast and say things?
I will say a best bet is that it's going to be a phenomenal festival one way or the other, and that we will be announcing, as soon as we possibly can, and it will be rad announcements.
And back to helping lots of people,
back to
too.
helping people.
Logan, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. So head on over to the show notes if you want to get in contact with Hope in the Hills, Healing Appalachia, learn more about it. And do hit subscribe. If you want to listen to this podcast and other interviews that I do similar to this one, I really would appreciate your support. Follow us over on social, The Best Bet Pod on Instagram, and we'll see you right back here next week. Thank you so much for watching the podcast. No matter where you're watching this right now, please leave a review, because that gets the word out about this particular podcast. So until next week, have a good one, everybody. Cheers.